Check out these tall auto racks. Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi. Today I'm reviewing a pair of HO Scale 20-2 auto racks from Class 1 Model Works. I bought two cars, one in Chicago and Northwestern yellow, and one in the Santa Fe quality scheme. Class 1 also offers these cars in other paint schemes. The theoretical MSRP for these models is $109.99. I paid $99.99 each for my cars direct from Class 1 Model Works. Since there are two models in this review, we'll start them at 200 possible points. Each car comes in a cardboard box with an openable top. A clear plastic window shows the model. Inside, a plastic cradle protects the car. A layer of flexible clear material protects the finish. Both models came out of the box in good condition with no broken or missing parts. These are good boxes that should protect the models for storage and transport. The 20-2 auto rack was 20 feet 2 inches tall, made to match the maximum height of loaded double-stack cars. These cars were taller than most other auto racks and were given TTQX reporting marks. 20-2 auto racks had 3 levels internally and were designed to be tall enough to fit SUVs and pickup trucks. Class 1 has modeled 4 distinct variations of these cars. My Santa Fe car is a Type A, representing a new build car. The CNW car is a Type D, representing a car that was refurbished. As best I've been able to determine, these cars were introduced in the 1990s. I found a photo of the Santa Fe car online. As far as I can tell, the model appears to be a near perfect match. I found a photo of the CNW car as well, and it also appears correct. I'm a little disappointed in the lack of prototype information provided by Class 1. There was no information sheet in the box, and there's not much on their website either. I listed the website as a source, but I also had to dig through multiple emails from Class 1 about these cars to find information. The paint on the cars is opaque and thin enough not to obscure small details. The markings are crisp and free of voids. Even the smallest writing looks legible, though I had trouble seeing some of it even with a magnifying glass. At the corners, the car has delicate stirrup steps that are made of metal for durability. The ladder rungs are made from individual pieces of wire. There are different numbers of rungs on different car types. The side panels are see-through and have minimal warpage. I have some other auto racks with photo-etched metal panels that are unrealistically curved. One of the most obvious differences between the Santa Fe and the CNW cars is in the design of the vertical posts. The Santa Fe car has posts that go all the way to the roof. The CNW car has posts with a different style extension near the top. On the ends, the cars have nicely done doors. These don't appear to be openable. There are uncoupling levers and hoses. The B end has a nicely done brake ratchet and chain. Up top, the corrugated roof has subtle rivet detail at intervals. Underneath, the car has full brake rigging. The floor appears to be made of die-cast metal, while other parts are plastic. The scale 28-inch wheels are metal. According to the website, these have the standard RP25 contour, but to my eye the tread looks narrower, more like a semi-scale wheel. Here's an example of a car with RP25 tread next to the auto rack. The axles have rotating end caps, and the wheel faces are painted brown. Both cars have metal knuckle couplers on both ends. The couplers do not have trip pins. The coupler on the A end of the CNW car is low, so I'm taking 5 points. The coupler on the B end is high. The coupler on the A end of the Santa Fe car looks slightly tilted, but ends up at the correct height. The coupler on the B end is low. All the wheels on both cars are in gauge according to the NMRA standards gauge. There is no significant body wobble. Both cars weigh 8.1 ounces, about an ounce over the NMRA recommended weight for a car of this length. I don't think some extra weight on a car this big is going to cause any issues and may help them to stay on the track better. The models are fairly free-rolling. Depending on which piece of literature you look at, Class 1 recommends a 22-inch or 24-inch minimum radius for these cars. I'm running them on Kato 550mm curves, which is equivalent to a slightly sharper 21 5/8 inch radius. Seems to work okay, though I don't think I'd recommend it. So right away, as I was looking at the bottom of this car, I realized that this is another situation where the coupler is not easily accessible. So I'm not sure how we're going to get into this, but we're going to find out. I'm going to start by removing the trucks. Well, that didn't do the trick. There's a screw that's kind of inconveniently buried under this detail part right here. So I guess I'm going to have to take this off and try to remove those screws from either end as well. So I can pop it off. I'm not sure Okay. Managed to get it off without breaking it, I think. So I'm going to take these two screws out now on either end, and then we'll see where we're at. So this part of the underframe on each end now wants to come out. However, the brake hose is connected under here, so I'm going to have to try to pop that off. There. Okay. And also there's a little detail part up here. This. Oh no, that's part of the whole sill. Okay, so this really can't be removed very easily. Oh, and look, there's yet another screw under here. So this will come up a little bit. However, this whole piece is one piece through the whole bottom of the car. So I don't know that, with all these details, I don't know that trying to take that off is too practical. I'll try to prop it out of the way, I guess. And then get to the screw. Let's see, can we do this? Yeah, and then that didn't, my screwdriver didn't stay there, but yeah, and then the draft gearbox lid will come off. I love it when they make them easy to work on. It's really, really great. There, got the coupler out. I'm going to replace these with Katie whisker couplers, so I'm going to take the spring out as well. The couplers that came with the model have a longer than normal shank, so I'm going to use some of these Katie 156 long shank scale head couplers to replace them. Now let's see, got to make sure that the whiskers don't get pinched. Try to keep this out of the way and put the lid back. Yeah, you know what? I'm taking 5 points each for this, for each end, because this is just ridiculous. I'm sorry, but this is just making me really annoyed. Nothing should be this hard to work on. Oh, great, they're sticky. So it's going to take some more work. Sometimes I file the inside of the lid when they're sticky. Sometimes taking a little paint off the inside of the lid will help the couplers swing more freely. Put a little Katie Greasem graphite lubricant in here before I put it back together as well. That also can help. Okay, that's much better. Now I just have to put all the details back in place. Okay, that's one end. This doesn't even address the coupler height yet. This is just to get the coupler in it. You know, I really don't like it when manufacturers make these things this hard to work on. I really think this could have been done with a lid that you could just take off. I mean, if it's a little less scale fidelity down here, I mean, how many people really care about that if you had an exposed screw here and maybe this was a separate little section that you could take out? You know, I just don't, I don't understand the logic of stuff like this. Because, you know, couplers can break. Some people may not want the couplers that are in there. This really bothers me. This was even harder to do on the B end because of this chain detail. You have to kind of tilt this end assembly and kind of tuck it under on this side before you put the rest of it down. This is just atrocious. This is one of the worst draft gearbox designs I've ever seen. Now I have Katie's on both cars, and I checked and all the couplers are now slightly low. The couplers are all drooping a little bit, so I'm going to add a 10,000 styrene shim underneath them. I wasn't able to do this on camera, but I did glue the shim basically to the draft gear box lid under the coupler, and it still goes back and forth pretty well. That did fix the CNW car, and these couplers are now at the right height. The Santa Fe car was still a little low, and normally what I would do in that situation is just add a washer between the truck and the bolster, which is why I was initially happy that it was low instead of high, because high is easier. High is more difficult to fix, typically. But I want to call your attention to this bolster. It has a little lip right here. So if you put a washer down here, it does absolutely nothing because the truck is actually sitting on this little lip. This little smaller piece goes through the center of the truck, and the rest of the truck is here. The truck also has a recessed circle within this other circle. So this larger circle pretty much does nothing on this car. The bolster actually fits inside here, and this is resting on that lip. What all this means is that unless you have a washer that was just the right size to fit in this little depression here, this is going to do nothing. And I already tried a Katie washer, and the hole is too big anyway, so it doesn't do anything. So it's really not very adjustable. The other thing about this is if the car was too high, you also really can't take material away from this without getting rid of the centerpiece. And then you would run the risk of the truck not pivoting properly because it wouldn't, the screw isn't big enough to hold it in the right place. It would potentially move around a little bit, and that could cause operational issues. So again, a really unnecessarily complex and I think poor design choice here. I just really don't understand it. The bolster design, in conjunction with the fact that there's no way to get into the inside of the car that I've found without breaking things, means that I'm going to take another 5 points per car for just a poor serviceability. Since I wasn't able to raise the car the normal way, what I did instead was to take some 10,000 styrene strips and use them as shims between the car floor and this piece here. And that pushes the whole bolster a little closer to the track, and it ended up raising the car enough to fix the coupler height difference that I was seeing when I looked at the coupler gauge. It's still maybe like a hair, literally a hair low, but I really don't know what else to do with it. Really, really unhappy with this whole arrangement here, but I think this should work, and this worked the best of anything else that I tried. So I'm just going to leave this in here. I didn't even really have to glue these because when the truck is screwed on, it clamps these down pretty well. So I think I'll just leave them without glue for now and see how they hold up. I really have to say that I'm getting really, really short on patience for manufacturers who want to do things in really weird ways. You know, this reminds me of, I have some old Athearn Genesis boxcars that in order to change the coupler, you had to take out the whole bottom part of the underframe because the coupler box lids were on the top of that instead of on the bottom where it wouldn't be more logical. And I have a couple of Atlas boxcars that have these really weird coupler boxes that don't take a normal Katie. And Atlas, I think, actually started including replacement boxes in those cars so you can, use more conventional couplers in them. But I look at stuff like that and I just shake my head and I'm like, why? Couplers break. People need to change them sometimes. Sometimes people don't like the couplers that came with the car, or, some people like to use Sargents or whatever, and you're going to have to go through a lot of work to service a car like this. And then, add to that it's really hard to alter the car height with the bolster like I normally would to fix some coupler height issues. It just makes this miserable to work on. Now that I have them all together, I'll run them on the layout and I'll probably, enjoy them with the rest of my auto racks, but I'm certainly not going to buy any more. There's the review score, which is going to end up being, probably a little under 80, be a yellow signal. But then there's my own personal opinion, and that is, would I buy this? And no, I wouldn't. I will not buy any more of these. I kind of regret buying these two, honestly. I think for the price, you know, they're just too many issues with the running things. But you know, I'm very much of the mind that operational considerations should always take precedence over detail. You know, I don't want to have something that is really pretty but can't be used in a reasonable fashion, and that's just, you know, how I am about it. And in fact, I dislike these so much that it's going to make me hesitant to buy anything else from Class 1 Model Works in the future. And I've reviewed some models from Class 1 before that I liked, but this is just, I just, you know, I was looking there, they're bringing out a covered hopper that's, they're bringing out a Santa Fe version of it that looked kind of cool, but I'm going to pass on it. I don't even want to, you know, unless Class 1 does something that I just find completely irresistible, like some unique piece of SP equipment that I don't have anything like, then I don't think I'll be buying any more. Let's see what we've got. 3 of the couplers were at the wrong height, so I took 15 points in the standards and operation category. The serviceability of these cars is poor, making it difficult to swap the couplers, adjust coupler height, or add a load, so I took 30 points in the rip track category. That leaves us with 155 out of 100 possible points, which averages to 77.5. Individually, the Santa Fe car gets an 80, and the CNW car gets 75. These are good-looking models, but they're overly difficult to work on. I'm giving them a yellow signal. Well, these cars look nice at any rate, I'll give them that. If you like this video, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel and I appreciate it. Stay tuned and thanks for watching.